Hello, this is Crypto CJ. It's the trade of the day, Monday afternoon / evening Zoom edition. And we are basking in the glory of $50,000 Bitcoin. It hasn't been able to hold it. It keeps bouncing up, stays there for, I don't know, 15, 20 minutes, then dips down in the 49s. And I read today about, breaking through a psychological barrier like that, like a round number, like 50,000. It's kind of like opening a rusty gate. You got to keep pushing on it and pushing on it and pushing on it until you break through. So 50,000 seems to be Bitcoin's rusty gate. And I think once we break through that, we'll get a lot more FOMO and, retail traders, probably less experienced than us. And they'll pile in, and then that should push prices even more. But again, we'll get some of this action. There's always those market makers have to get their cut and push things down and liquidate people on the leverage exchanges. But I digress. It's just a lot of fun to have 50K Bitcoin. So I'm going to share my screen and we'll look at the charts and some other information sources. And today we're going to talk a little bit about hodling, what to do for those of you who've held throughout this whole process. What should you do with the Bitcoin and the Ethereum and the other altcoins you may have? So we'll start by looking at the Bitcoin chart. And you guys seeing my Bitcoin day chart?
Yep.
Thank you. As you can see, we're in the 49.9 area, broken through the zone that I had at 48K. So we've closed above it yesterday, Sunday night, and easily today. Wouldn't surprise me if we dip back down below, break, drop, break. I forgot what they call that on Crypt Nation, but that's a pretty common move in Bitcoin. And then on Ethereum, also had a pretty good day. Yeah, up 6%, even more. This is probably riding on the Ethereum ETF proposed for the spring. So obviously we have the halving coming up in April. So there's a lot of good news with Bitcoin. There's most of the grayscale stuff is resolved. Talked about that before. I'm not going to go into that in any detail. But I do have a couple charts up that I don't usually talk about, and I'm going to show those now. This is the S&P 500. On Friday, it broke above 5,000 for the first time ever. And today it dipped a little bit, but still above 5,000. So I don't know if it's a coincidence that, S&P is at 5,000, Bitcoin's at 50,000, both, factors of five. But anyway, we used to be frustrated as crypto traders that Bitcoin so frequently followed the traditional markets that were TradFi. And for most of this year, at least, or late last year and early this year, they were sort of separate, and maybe now they're running in confluence. So we'll see. And then I've also got this calendar of financial events that the Forex people like, and people who trade indices and stocks. But these numbers can affect Bitcoin as well. Tomorrow on the 13th, we've got CPI data coming out, Consumer Price Index, 8:30 in the morning. I think that's my time, Mountain Time. That might be 10:30 Eastern, but check that. That could cause some volatility in the markets. And I got to chat. Yeah. Eve is saying nothing is a coincidence. So yeah, I don't believe in coincidences either. Okay, so that's my overall financial news approach. A little more than usual, but we're loving the 50K return. We haven't been, when's the last time we were at 50K? Go to the month chart. So looks like, yeah, the last time was December 21. We were at 57. So, and then I want to show you one more thing, and this will this will move us into our discussion of what to do with the coins you've been holding. On iCoinPro, they have the fear and greed index. I mean, you can find this, I think it's alternative.me. We'll bring this up. And we're in greed now. Now we've been in greed off and on, throughout the Bitcoin being in the 40s. But I think what's coming next is extreme greed on the fear and greed index. And I've got some Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana, Matic, some things like that. I'm going to be looking to sell portions of those when we hit extreme greed and or Bitcoin hits 65K. That's how I'm looking at this. 65 was the last high, all-time high we had in Bitcoin. I think I sold about a quarter of my holdings at around 60K, which made me feel really good. But I held the rest of it, and then it crashed down to 16. So not so good. But my thinking is to sell a portion of what I have in my in my hodls because you don't really know, and then set that aside and then buy during the next large significant dip. So that's how I'm approaching it.
PJ,
Yeah.
there's one factor that you haven't taken into account that helped push the price up over that 50K, and that was Chinese New Year was on for me on Saturday, which was Friday for you. And the
Okay.
weekend volume was very high compared to normal, or particularly
So
that Friday, Saturday for me.
I
So
did.
I think a lot of the Chinese were making New Year decisions, and they do a lot of financial decisions at that time and investments. So I think that could have been a part of the big push.
That didn't even cross my mind. Thanks for that, Craig. Yeah, Chinese investors, Chinese people have been gravitating towards crypto lately. They've had their own economic problems in that area. So, seeing crypto as a safe haven. I don't know how you do that in China though. Maybe it's in Hong Kong, but where the
Yeah, but
rules
there's
are.
Chinese all over the world.
Yeah,
It's
yeah, yeah, yeah. That's a good
not
point.
just the
Not just in
Chinese
China.
mainlanders.
Right, right. You've got ethnic Chinese and yeah, like you said, all over the world. So that's a good point. I hadn't thought of that. So thank you for that. Any other comments, questions, theories about why we're at 50K? Or actually, I'm more interested to hear how some of you guys are going to handle the coins that you're holding. If any of you are brave enough to chime in.
Can I ask a question? Does the fear and greed, I'm sorry, this is kind of new. So for me, this platform, so is the green 71, is that indicating what? That more people are buying,
That's
accumulating? Like what is that mean?
Yeah, sort of. Now, if you look at the heading here, it says multifactorial crypto market sentiment analysis. So this tool is also analyzing sentiment, which is what people are talking about. I don't know how they accumulate that data. I mean, we're going to talk about Altcoin Alert soon, and they accumulate Twitter data. I'm not sure how this tool does that, but it may use Twitter, it may use some other sources about how people feel about the markets. So the idea is it's not strictly a technical indicator like what we're going to look at soon, charts and things like that. So I don't have a real clear answer
And the
for
more
you,
green,
but
more
but I know a lot of people look at this.
gotcha. But the more green, the more buy.
The greener it is, the more bullish it is. So
Thank
when
you.
you're welcome. When Bitcoin was pumping 50, 60K a few years ago, yeah, we're down here in extreme greed. And so that's what I'm going to be looking to offload some of mine.
CJ,
Go ahead, Frank.
yeah, I think it's the old um, you sell when everybody's buying and you buy when everybody's selling, when there's blood in the streets, and that's trying to tell you where you are on that continuum. I don't know if that's Buffett who
Mm.
first coined that idea or phrase or whatever, but obviously the higher it gets, the more likely there's going to be a sell-off. And that's what it's telling you is we're getting towards that possible top.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, I agree. And that's going to be why I do that. I'm trying to take the, the fear and greed, the emotion out of that and sell off some of my hodls. And if
Uh,
it's too soon, so be it. But
so the green is not telling you to buy, it's telling you to be ready to
Mhm.
sell.
I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah, I probably should have explained
For
that more, but
for
that's
E.
my thinking.
Gotcha.
Yeah, when it hits that
Okay.
extreme greed, that's when you need to start looking at your holdings and see if there's anything you want to sell and set aside for the next big dip. So that's what I'm thinking. Anybody else want to chime in before we move over to Altcoin Alert?
Yeah, I was wondering, are people going more to Bitcoin because it's stable and it's going to gain a lot, or the altcoins because your percentages of gain are higher, even though it's lower actual cash dollars?
Well, by people, you're
Generally speaking, okay, our group.
yeah, and I think yeah, you asked that question earlier about, if I'm day trading, I want to trade altcoins because they move more. Though Bitcoin moved today 3%, this is a pretty big move for Bitcoin. It doesn't move 3% very often, maybe a couple times a month. So, but as a hodl, I knew, when I bought more Bitcoin in last spring that it should recover in 2024. I wanted to get good prices. And, I'd heard the ETF conversation and things like that. I think that's had a lot to do with it. And, the halving and those kind of things that we've talked about before. So, yeah, that's why I think it's moving up by people, maybe new people to Bitcoin who've never traded it before, but people have been in crypto for a few years or even 6 months, learn very quickly that you can just look at my list here. If I sort this, actually let's do it on Altcoin Alert. If I sort this by 24-hour change, all these double digits are altcoins, and then Bitcoin's down here. I'm not sure what its change was, but um, it's not showing me one. Oh, it's because I have too many digits in here. All right, so it's just under 4% in 24 hours. So, it's not going to move as much as the other coins, which is why we like to trade altcoins as far as day trading and short-term swing trading. Okay. Any other general questions before we look for some day trades and swing trades on Altcoin Alert? Okay, I am on Altcoin Alert. I am on the altcoin radar, not the dashboard. You can do this if you want, but I prefer to have all the information, all the columns. And then my first sort is usually the AA score after I refresh. And I'm looking for values 80 or higher. I'll fudge a little in the high 70s if it's a coin I like to trade. And I don't know if I've ever seen Bitcoin up here above 80, but here it is. And this is telling us that Bitcoin has an 80%, 80.4% chance to go up 3% or more in the next 48 to 72 hours. But I would rather trade altcoins. But I'm not really seeing a lot that I like to trade, until I get here to render, which is something I like to trade, 78.7. I think that's close enough. It's the coin we've looked at a few times in the past. We should look at Rally instead, because this one we just got an alert on this one through the Slack group, and the numbers are really good, like 12 to 20% in the 48 to 72 hour range. If you want to do a swing trade on this, the problem with rally is it doesn't really trade on anything that I trade on. So if you want to trade this one, you're going to have to get on. I do have a BitGet account. I could trade it there, but Gate.io, which I know the Crypt Nation guys don't recommend, or MEXC. So if you want to trade this one, maybe you get on one of those with a small amount, and then you see what you can do with it. I'm on the 1 hour chart, but I'm not on. Oh shoot. Yeah, let's go to BitGet. Okay, this is interesting. Got a really large red zone here. This is my supply and demand visible range for Lux Algo. If you want to know about my chart setups, that is in the email I send on Sunday nights and Mondays. It refers to my overall update video on how I handle these calls, and you can go to that video and it'll show you how I set up my charts. But right now I'm on the swing trade layout on the 1 hour chart. We've got a couple of big pumps and a really large red zone. This is unusual for this indicator, but probably because of these two wicks pumping up, and that we've got a 10% range in the red zone. So what I would do with rally, if I were trading this one, I would either do a price alert down here, top of the green zone. That's easy to do. Right click, add an alert, and no. I usually use information sources as my alert names. So that's going to be AA score purchase. And once you type that a few times in TradingView, it will remember it. Notifications, I'm going to notify in my app on my phone, pop up on my desktop computer, play a sound also on my computer, and click create, and then you're good to go. I've also got the supertrend on here, which is alert friendly. So right now we've got a buy. We're kind of late. I think it's going to go into a sell and then maybe another buy. That might be the time to get in. So you can right click on supertrend, leave it on buy for a spot trade. You probably don't need once per bar close on this, just once. And again, AA score purchase. And you can do what you want with your notifications. And then when it does trigger, I've got this Annie's ribbon that I've been using for confirmation on these layouts. So when it's a bit cluttered at the moment, but when these bands turn green and I'm above the green zone, ideally it'd be coming out of it like it is over here. But if it dips and then comes back, that might be a good place to make a spot trade on rally as more of a swing trade. It'll probably take a few days before it hits the top of this red zone. And my exit would be around here, probably the 785 area, looking for, 9 to 11%. Okay, any questions on rally? Okay, and then the other one we were looking at was render. Let's look at that as a day trade. Now my day trades, I'm just looking to get 1%, and I'm an inexperienced day trader, so I'm trading on leverage, usually 10x. I can also automate that with some software I'm using, so it automatically sets my ladder buys, my additional purchases if it goes against me, and there's also a stop loss to kick me out if it goes too far against me. Due to being in a bull market, though, I don't have a stop loss on my long positions. I do on my shorts, so that's a bit controversial. Most traders say you should always have a stop loss. I do on about half my trades. We were going to look at render, okay? All right, so I'm gonna take a quick look at the 5-minute chart to see if we have a dip sequence. So here's a dip sequence right here. You've got and if you're on my email list, you should have the 1, 2, 3 dip training by iCoinPro. We're gonna look at iCoinPro in a little bit. And this is a pretty good example of one. We have a squeeze in this area here, then it bubbles. Get 1, 2, 3, and then right here is your entry. You know, if you go to the SMA line, you get nearly 2%. If you want to look at some additional resistance, you know, right here is about 3%. And then let's see where we were for our support and resistance at the time this triggered. So the red zone up here where you see resistance around 4.66, that could be your more ambitious exit. And we hit 466, you know, right about here. And this is a great day trade, almost 5%, and only takes 5 hours. So good stuff on render. If you're trading it on leverage, you know, that would have been a really good day trade at 5x or 10x. I'm only going for 1x, so I would have been out of this pretty quickly, probably right about here later that morning. Of course, that's assuming I'm up at 4:30 a.m. Mountain Time taking a trade, but I wanted to show an example of this, and I saw it, and so, but we don't have that situation now on the 5-minute chart.
I have a question on the 1, 2, 3.
Okay.
That third dip, that they don't have to completely come out of that just as long as they cross the line. Is that correct?
It depends how rigid you want to be. You know, this, you could argue that this was, this was 1, 2, and maybe your third dip's here, you know, so I'm a little loosey-goosey with this more than iCoinPro would probably prefer. They're pretty, you know, they're more like, do this. So anyway, it's got a nice dip sequence. Down, fails to come up. Then you get the second one here, pretty good volume. You know, if you're looking at your RTI, it's trending up pretty hard. So, you know, you get a change on the cumulative delta. So these are all things you can look at on the 5-minute chart to help you make a decision. But there's nothing wrong with waiting for another dip. Though actually another one didn't come. So you would have missed that trade if you waited for another one.
Okay, thanks.
You're welcome. But to be honest, I usually do this off the 15-minute chart off the RTI. So if the RTI breaks above and I like what I see, you know, I get in then. So that happens here. Actually, yeah, it never does break above the 20 until 7:15. So if I go to my 5-minute chart, you know, I'm a little late to this entry. The 1, 2, 3 dip approach would have been a little bit better, but it doesn't really do much. It goes up a little bit then sideways, and I get the better entry here based on my 15-minute approach using the RTI. So, and this is what I've been talking about for the last, you know, 4, 5 months or so. So with the RTI break above the 20, this is one of my favorite entries. When it breaks below the 20 and it's coming back up, showing me strength on a recovery. That's your basic dip and retrace. Love that. I like to do it on the short side too, when it breaks above the 80 and then comes back down. But in light of our bull market, that's a riskier trade. But these are usually good entries in a bull market. Sometimes it just putzes around and dips again, but usually it comes back for, you know, some of these. I'd say render has been around for a while, but it still moves enough that I like to trade it. I mean, between the green zone and the red zone on the 15-minute chart, you've got over 5%. That's a nice range. So, okay, so what do we do now that we have this information? So we're gonna set an alert on the RTI. And on the spot side, we just want it to cross up on the 20. So that means it'll dip below the 20, and then when it crosses back up, when it's recovering, the alert will go off. I do once per bar close. I leave it on all day and then turn it off, before when I'm done trading. Alert name, that was an AA score purchase, and then notifications. So that's how I like to do it on a dip and a retrace. You can also catch this on a breaking above the 50, which happens here, and that's better evidence of strength. And then we look at our cumulative delta for confirmation, and it's trending up hard. Big fat green candles here on the cumulative delta, really good confirmation there. I'll move my line over here. So that crosses here, and that's a really good entry. We're getting 3.8% in 2 hours. That's a really good day trade. So if you're trading spot, instead of 20, go with 50 and set another alert. And if you're really ambitious, do another one at 80 when it breaks above this area here, or just stay in, depends how you want to trade. But it breaks above the 80 here and still has room to move. I've done better with this 50 approach than with the 80. Get an earlier entrance. Sometimes it putzes around this 50 for a while before taking off. So, and then you get multiple alerts going off if you have the once per bar close. But if you can tolerate a little noise in your life, it's all good. All right, so that's the spot trade approach. If you're leverage trading like me, you may want to trade both directions. So we're going to choose entering a channel. We're going to create our channel with 80 on top, 20 on the bottom, and everything else stays the same. Sometimes I call this the 1, 2, 3 dip pump approach, because this sort of simulates the 1, 2, 3 dip on the 5-minute chart. It's not ideal, as you can see from the example I showed you. It's a little bit of a late entrance, but it still was a good entry. But what you call your alerts is up to you. So click create, and then if I do that, and I'll go ahead and create that one. Yeah, this rectangle shows up with the dotted line on the 80 on the top and 20 on the bottom. Then if you want to change this, you can right click on it and edit it, or turn it off or delete it. So, and yeah, all 3 of those entries, as I showed, would have been successful on this render trade. Any questions on this one?
Yeah, back when you were first talking, I've almost forgot my question now, but go a little further to the left at about 12.
12 a.m. or
well,
or
it's
this
12
one?
over here. Go to the left. Left, 12 o'clock right there. Well, I'm on a different time zone you are.
Yeah, it's
Okay,
going to be different. If you're looking at yours, then
okay, I'm looking at mine. Okay. There's like 4 little triangles in a row. And coming at it's on the 20, but it's not to the 50. So you said you would enter right when it crossed going up into the 20.
yeah. This one
And
here.
no, not that one. Back.
This one?
Nope. Back one more. Yeah, there's 4 little humps in a row. Not hitting the
This
50.
one.
Yeah, that one.
Yeah.
Okay. You said you would enter at the 20 there.
Mm-hmm.
I guess what are you looking at it that it won't continue back down? I'm not grasping that.
Well, the RTI has crossed above right here where I put the yellow line. And so, and I'm close enough to the green zone. I'm looking at support and resistance, and then RTI shows me, momentum. It sort of incorporates a few different things, but showing me the strength of the trend, and it's telling me that it's starting to come back up. And so I would have gotten in right about here. And I would have maybe gotten my 1%, maybe not. It's like right on the border here. And if not, it's going to dip, then it's going to come back. and then I might be taking a ride for a while. Maybe I do an additional purchase here, another one here, and then I get out around here. So in that scenario, which isn't a great entry from 10:30 in the morning on Sunday, my time, it takes a while for that one to nearly a day and a couple additional purchases, but it does come back and I am profitable. And the nice thing about the ladder buy approach is you can put more money in. So I actually would have made more. I make more money in this scenario, even though it goes against me at first, than I do when it goes my way immediately, because I'm adding additional purchases. So usually how it works is my first position, has a small loss or breaks even, but my next two positions do really well. And the same video I referenced earlier also has a link to a ladder buying trading approach where you do additional purchases when something goes against you. This does require you to manage your balance accordingly, and you have to usually get in with smaller amounts than you would if you were employing more of a stop loss approach. Okay, does that help, Kim?
Yeah, I'll have to watch the video on the ladder buying, but yeah, that kind of answers my question. Thank you.
All right, cool. Well, we're at about 35 minutes, so is there anything else about Altcoin Alert before I head over to iCoinPro? I only did it.
Yeah, I got a couple questions.
Okay.
So can you go over to IMX and Altcoin Alert, please?
IMX.
I was looking at IMX and stacks. Now go back to the chart once. Okay, so my question here is, oh, you gotta have the IMX.
Shoot, so now it's not coming up. All right. Do you want the
Okay.
IMX chart?
No, just hang on a minute.
Okay.
So it says the price is 296. And then over on your 1 hour projection range, it says it can go up 3.15%.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you're gonna probably tell me I'm really dumb and doing something wrong, but so
I would never tell you
since
that.
I don't know how to do the graphs yet, I take that 2.96 and I multiply it times the 3.15%.
Uh-huh.
And then I get in and I multiply that out and add them together, and I set just right below that. So if
Okay.
I took the 2.96, I gotta get my calculator out here. 2.96 times 3.4. And then I add them. Okay, I got 306. So I put it in and I set it for a limit at 305. And then occasionally through the day, I look at that. But I'm not accounting for the lower portion. So my question is, when they're giving you that 1 hour projection, is it telling me there that it can go all the way up to 3.4% and all the way down 2.93% in the same hour? Is that how I'm supposed to read that?
I believe so. 1 hour from now. Center number is the middle of the range. Yeah, this isn't something I use very often. I will look at it occasionally in my Zoom calls. And I like to use it when there's big moves in the market. Today would be an example of that. But when I see something that the range is nearly identical on the upper and the lower, which is what we have here, this isn't persuasive to me. So I want something that's going to have, let's see if I can find an example.
Both of them been going up, but unfortunately I got out, and then every time I get out, I see it's going up. So I get back in and then I'm higher. And That must go to the greed factor.
Well, I haven't talked about this in a while, but this is a really good point. Plan your trade and train your plan. Bryce says this all the time. I think it's really good advice. If you're looking for, a 3% move and you construct your trade and it hits and you get out, feel good about that. I don't care if it goes up, 10%, 20%, 30%. That wasn't your strategy on that trade. So, if you want bigger moves like that, you have to do, swing trades and hodls. So,
Okay, so go to your chart now on IMX. And it's been going up, 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 up.
Yep.
So when do I get back in?
Well, if you
That's
want to day
scary.
trade it, then you look at your values and you wait for dips and you get in on the dips. So with the tools that I've showed you how to use or any other tools that you want to use. But if and it's difficult when you day trade and you take 1, 2, 3% profits and something pumps double digits, a lot of people get upset about that, but that wasn't your plan for that particular trade. But if you want to, hold and stay in longer, Frank on this call does that, and it's a different way of trading than I do, but there are other people on there who do more swing trades and they hold them for, days, weeks, months, and you can catch those bigger moves, but you also expose yourself to it going against you. Yeah, what's really no fun is planning for a 3% profit. It goes up to maybe 5%, you stay in, then it craters 10 or 15%. And that's just as plausible as in any other scenario. So what I'm trying to tell you is if you plan your trade and then you get what you desire, what you were planning for, feel good about that. Don't kick yourself because it kept going up.
Yeah, CJ.
Yeah, go ahead, Frank.
Well,
Probably
just
explain your approach better than I can.
well,
So.
it's just if you go back to a chart with RTI, that one way to use it is if it stays above the 50, which is the bigger dash line in the middle there, the big white dash line, you're in an uptrend, so you just stay in longer.
Yep.
Until you top out, you hit the red zone on your algo, Lux algo, or you see a candlestick pattern that you think is a reversal pattern, or you're tired and want to go to bed and don't want to watch it, or whatever your strategy is. But that's a way to use that particular indicator. You keep getting green bars on cumulative delta. It's still running. It's a trend trading indicator and technique. So
yep.
You're mixing apples and oranges. You're using something from Altcoin Alert, and you're trying to day trade it, but you're swing trading, or you're swing trading, but you're trying to day trade. Yeah, you have to sort it out and figure out, and then everything is what works for you. Doesn't matter what works for somebody else. So you have to see what resonates with you and how you interpret things. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
really
it
helpful.
does. And it's just because I haven't learned the charts yet because I'm new. And so I was trying a couple different things.
Right.
Can you put IMX up there, CJ? So I
on
can.
the chart?
Yes, please.
All right.
Of course, I'm on Coinbase, but it doesn't matter.
We completely destroyed your Zoom today.
I know. I'm sure. I mean, I get to iCoinPro, so. But the
I
charts
own a
usually don't
full-time
matter.
business, so I have a hard time even doing anything during the day unless I can look. And that's why I looked and I set the limit. Because if I can't look quickly, I gotta work. But what I'm saying is,
I actually need to
the
interrupt
limit
you and
hit
clarify
I got
something
out.
first. So I said the charts don't matter. What I meant was usually which exchange you choose on your chart. I usually use Binance charts because that's what I started with. I just went over to a Coinbase chart. But anyway, go ahead. I interrupted you.
So I hit my limit and I went out, and then it dipped.
Mhm.
So I'm like, okay, I'll get back in. And then I went and used that altcoin alert and did the percentage again. That's why my question on that altcoin alert is, if that's a range where it's gonna go up to that 3 point something and it's gonna go down, I can wait till it goes down and I can hit the upside. But if I'm supposed to take the average in the middle, well, 0.2% isn't worth the risk.
No, I agree. And that's why I use Altcoin Alert, generally speaking. I use Altcoin Alert to show me what's moving that day. I don't really use it to determine when and where I get out, or like the IMX number we were looking at earlier, with the upper and the lower. I'm not, yeah, you're trading that way in a way I'm not. So at this point, you probably know more about that approach than I do, but yeah, I occasionally look at that one to help me see if something's moving in the 1 hour period. And what I'm looking for, something more like this, like Axie, which is a coin I trade anyway. Its upper value is 3.44, but its lower is only negative 0.22. So I got 1.61, but I'm on 10x leverage. So this is desirable to me because the downside is very low and the upside's pretty good. So I think this approach might be a little bit better for you if this number's a little higher. On a spot trade, I'd probably want a little more than 1.6%. I probably want 2 or 3, but anyway, not sure if that helps
Okay.
you or not.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah. And that's really the only one I see here that would appeal to me with a really lower range. And try to sort this the opposite way for a short. Well, I can't mess around like this. I'm running out of time. So any other questions on Altcoin Alert? I'm going to look at one potential trade on iCoinPro because I'm running out of time. Okay. iCoinPro, the first sort I like to do on iCoinPro, home of the 1, 2, 3 dip, is looking for values that have dipped below 30 on the 1 hour RSI. RSI similar to the RTI. And on the 1 hour time frame, if something's dipped below the 30, it's usually due for a retrace. So that interests me. I want to set alerts on that. But we don't have anything even really close. We've got a few in the 30s. They're Bitcoin pairs, which I don't trade. And then we don't have a USDT pair until this one here, this Dago Finance, which is at 43. So bummer, we don't have anything here on the long side, but you can sort it the other way and look for values above 70. And we have quite a few of those since we've been pumping today. And on this one, I set an alert this morning on, I think it was Matic. Theta would be a good option. Yeah, here's Matic. These are two coins I like to trade, Matic and Theta. They're kind of in the middle as far as how well they move. The Graph, Maker, IoTex, YFI, Sushi. These are sort of like that too, older projects that move better than Bitcoin, but not as good as something like, I don't know, STX or IMX that we were looking at earlier. So any of those would be pretty good options. Since I've got alerts set on Matic, we'll go ahead and look at that. Let's go over here. And Matic is on my list. It's had a nice move today. This was over $1 not that long ago, so I think we're heading back towards that area for Matic. And I'm on the 15-minute in the red zone. RTI is above the 80, so I'd be looking for this to dip down. Maybe take a short, but yeah, not so sure. It did really well when it dipped below the 20 and came back. It's pretty similar to the IMX chart we looked at. Did come up here. I probably would have taken this trade. And it goes against me a little bit. I probably do one additional purchase. Then I get out around here. And again, quickly on the alerts, we've got the crossing up on the 20 for the dip and retrace, on the 50 for the trend trade, and on the 80 if we really think it's going to pump. And then on trading both directions, enter a channel, 80 on top, 20 on the bottom. And I've already got that set up. So I'm going to cancel that. And you can see my alert from this morning. And it just, I've only had 2 alerts go off today, and they were pretty much longs up here in the red zone on trend trades. I didn't like that entry, so I haven't traded today, which is frustrating. Any questions on Matic or iCoinPro? Okay. Well, any questions on anything else we've gone over? I know we have a few new people. I hope I wasn't going too fast. You know, the replay is available of this if you want to go through it a little slower and maybe have some questions for Friday's Zoom call. But if there's nothing else, I'll go ahead and wrap it up here. All right. If you're watching on the recording, thanks for doing that. Hope to see you live next time. Please check out the pinned comment. It helps support the channel, the opportunities in the pinned comment, and we will see you guys next time. Bye.